What if I told you that working harder isn't the key to success? And that medieval peasants, yes, medieval peasants, might have had more balanced lives than you do right now. Sounds crazy, right? But in a world obsessed with hustle culture, where productivity is worn like a badge of honor, many of us are feeling the crushing weight of an endless grind. We push ourselves to the brink, filling every spare second with something: meetings, deadlines, side hustles, believing that constant busyness will somehow lead to fulfillment. Yet here's the paradox. The more we do, the less we actually feel we've accomplished. Ever find yourself exhausted but unable to sleep because your mind won't stop racing? Or struggling to feel present with friends and family? Your thoughts hijacked by unfinished work and unread emails? It's like we're all sprinting on a treadmill set to burnout mode, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. Now, what if I told you that the real secret to accomplishing everything is to do nothing? Yep, nothing. It's a concept so counterintuitive that it's bound to make you pause. And if you're tempted to roll your eyes and scroll away, stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll discover why some of the most successful people in history credit their biggest breakthroughs to the power of stepping back. Take Bruce Henderson and Bill Bain, for example, the visionary founders behind two of the world's most prestigious consulting firms, the Boston Consulting Group and Bain and Company. At the height of their careers, these men didn't bury themselves in client work. No, they stepped back. They understood that to truly revolutionize the field, they had to resist the temptation to micromanage and instead dedicate their time to thinking strategically. Henderson famously created the Boston Box, a framework that transformed how companies evaluate business strategies. It wasn't born out of frantic meetings or sleepless nights. It emerged from time spent in deep thought, pondering, and refining ideas. And then there's Bill Gates, who became known for his twice-a-year Think Weeks. These weren't vacations or luxury retreats. They were sacred week-long periods where he'd retreat to a secluded cabin, cut off from family, friends, and work responsibilities. No meetings, no phone calls, no constant stream of emails, just stacks of books, silence, and his thoughts. Gates has credited these Think Weeks for many of Microsoft's game-changing innovations, like the development of Windows and breakthroughs in cloud computing. In his words, the most powerful ideas came not from the office or boardroom, but from the stillness of doing nothing. And here's the kicker. These aren't isolated stories. Even Albert Einstein often described how his greatest theories, like the theory of relativity, came to him during moments of daydreaming. He'd let his mind wander, trusting that in that mental stillness, new connections would emerge. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, trapped in a loop of endless to-dos, or just desperate for a new way to thrive, you can't afford to miss what comes next. Stay until the end, because we're about to dive into how doing nothing can transform not only your productivity, but your entire life. Trust me, this one insight could change everything. As we dig deeper into this idea, let's confront the elephant in the room: our obsession with productivity. We live in a society where busyness isn't just normal, it's celebrated. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, proof that we're valuable, driven, and worthy of respect. Think about it. When was the last time you asked someone how they were doing and they didn't respond with busy? Consider the impact of this. We set our alarms earlier, pack our schedules tighter, and brag about how little sleep we get, as though sacrificing rest makes us heroes. Social media amplifies this message, filling our feeds with influencers and entrepreneurs who flaunt their hustle, making the rest of us feel like we're not working hard enough. But here's the brutal irony. For all our striving, we feel emptier, not more fulfilled. We burn out. We lose touch with our passions. Our relationships suffer, and our health takes a hit. And for what? To feed a machine that demands endless output, even when it's crushing our spirits. This relentless cycle is fueled by the attention economy, a system that's designed to keep us perpetually distracted and engaged. Tech companies have built empires on the simple idea that our attention is money. The more time we spend scrolling, liking, commenting, and clicking, the more profit they make. Ever notice how hard it is to put your phone down, even when you're exhausted and desperately need rest? That's not an accident. It's by design. Every app, every notification, every endless scroll of content is meticulously engineered to hijack your focus, keep you hooked, and drain your mental energy. We're led to believe that if we're not always online, always consuming or performing, we'll fall behind or, worse, become irrelevant. But the consequences are devastating. Our minds are rarely still. We're constantly jumping from one dopamine hit to the next, never allowing ourselves the space to genuinely rest or reflect. This nonstop engagement erodes our well-being, leaving us feeling stressed, anxious, and perpetually restless. And it makes true, meaningful rest feel like a luxury we can't afford, even though it's what we desperately need to function and thrive. Now, let's talk about how this obsession with productivity has escalated to the point where even our downtime is commodified. Welcome to the era of 24/7 monetizable time, where every moment of your life is seen as a potential resource to be exploited. Hypercapitalism has transformed even our most basic human needs, like sleep, leisure, and family time, into opportunities for productivity. We've been sold this myth that time is money, to such an extreme that taking time for yourself feels almost selfish or wasteful. The pressure to turn every waking moment into something productive has seeped into our subconscious, whispering that if we're not constantly achieving, we're falling behind. Think about how many people use their breaks to catch up on emails, or how weekends have become opportunities to tick off more tasks from an endless to-do list. Even sleep, something essential to our survival, has become part of the productivity narrative. We track it, optimize it, and measure it as though it's just another metric to improve our output. Hypercapitalism has turned rest into a commodity, something to be earned or hacked rather than a fundamental human right. So what does all this mean? It means that non-doing isn't just a personal choice. It's a radical act of defiance. Choosing to do nothing is a way to reclaim your mental and emotional freedom from a system designed to exploit you. When we step back and resist the urge to fill every moment with activity, we're rejecting the idea that our worth is tied to our productivity. We're saying no to a culture that sees our time as an asset to be monetized. Non-doing, in this context, becomes an act of self-preservation and even rebellion, a way to protect our minds and bodies from a world that never stops demanding more. But let's be clear, this isn't about dropping out of society or shirking responsibilities. It's about recognizing the value of stillness in a world that profits from our constant movement. It's about remembering that we are human beings, not human doings, and that our value extends far beyond our output. By embracing non-doing, we can start to heal from the burnout culture and reconnect with what truly matters. Now, before we go any further, let's address a common misconception head-on. The idea that non-action is just a glorified excuse for laziness. It's easy to hear phrases like do nothing and picture someone sprawled out on the couch, neglecting their responsibilities. But non-action, in the philosophical sense, is far from idleness. It's about deliberate presence, a finely tuned awareness that demands more discipline than mindlessly pushing forward. Imagine a master sculptor standing before a massive block of marble. The tools are in hand, but the sculptor doesn't rush in, hacking away without thought. Instead, they wait, studying the stone, sensing its potential, and allowing inspiration to guide each precise strike. Every chisel hit is intentional, timed perfectly to reveal the art hidden within. This is non-action in its truest form, not the absence of effort, but effort refined by wisdom and patience. Or picture a surfer floating in the ocean. They don't paddle frantically at every ripple, exhausting themselves against the current. Instead, they wait, attuned to the rhythm of the waves, conserving their energy until the perfect moment arrives. When that wave comes, they act, not with force, but with flow, moving in harmony with the natural energy of the ocean. Non-action is this artful alignment, knowing when to act and when to hold back. This is the paradox. Stepping back can make our actions more impactful, not less. Think about the times you've tried to force something, a creative project, a difficult conversation, or even a solution to a problem. The more you pushed, the more stuck you became. Now consider what happened when you stepped back, let your mind rest, and return with fresh eyes. Often, the path forward became clear almost effortlessly. Let's take it one step deeper with an analogy that affects every single one of us. Breathing. Breathing is something we do naturally, effortlessly, without conscious thought. But the moment you try to control your breath, forcing each inhale and exhale, it becomes strained, unnatural, even exhausting. Our bodies know how to breathe in perfect rhythm when we don't interfere. In the same way, life flows more smoothly when we stop micromanaging every moment and allow things to unfold. Non-doing is about harmonizing with these natural rhythms, not forcing outcomes that are beyond our control. It's a simple idea, but one that carries profound implications. Consider athletes performing under pressure. The best athletes know that the secret to peak performance isn't pushing harder, but finding a state of flow. Tennis champion Roger Federer, for instance, has often been described as playing with effortless grace. It's not that he's not exerting effort, but he's so attuned to the game that his movements appear seamless and instinctive. Purposeful inaction allows us to enter that state of flow where we become more effective by doing less. Purposeful inaction doesn't mean sitting back and letting life happen to you. It means knowing when to pause and when to move, acting with precision rather than compulsion. It's like a well-timed chisel strike on marble. Powerful because it's intentional, not hurried or reckless. So the next time you're tempted to equate non-action with laziness, remember the sculptor, the surfer, the athlete in flow. Non-action is a skill, one that takes practice and awareness. The roots of this wisdom stretch back thousands of years to the teachings of Lao Tzu, whose philosophy of Wu Wei reveals even more about the transformative power of non-doing. Let's explore how these ancient insights can guide us today. The wisdom behind non-action isn't just a modern productivity hack or a fleeting trend. Its roots run deep into the heart of ancient philosophy, where the most profound truths have always been found. So let's dive into the spiritual depth of Wu Wei, a concept from the great Chinese sage Lao Tzu, whose teachings have guided seekers for thousands of years. Lao Tzu, the author of the Tao Te Ching, spoke of Wu Wei, which translates to non-doing or effortless action. But don't be fooled by the simplicity of the phrase. Wu Wei doesn't mean doing nothing in the literal sense. Instead, it's about moving in harmony with the natural flow of existence, acting only when the moment is right, and doing so with grace and ease. Imagine a river winding its way through a valley. It doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It flows around them, carving a way forward with gentle, persistent strength. The river's power comes not from force, but from fluidity and alignment with the landscape. This is Wu Wei, living in such perfect rhythm with life that effort becomes unnecessary. But why is this so hard to grasp, especially in our goal-driven world? The answer lies in what I'd call the law of consciousness and inner resistance. The harder we try to force change, whether in our relationships, personal growth, or even in achieving a state of inner peace, the more resistance we encounter. It's like trying to push a heavy boulder uphill. The harder you shove, the more it pushes back and the less progress you make. Our minds operate similarly. When we try to make ourselves feel calm or force ourselves into a state of compassion, we often end up feeling more anxious and agitated. True transformation, as Lao Tzu teaches, comes from letting go, from self-acceptance, and from gentle awareness. When we stop fighting ourselves, our natural state of balance and clarity emerges. It's like letting that boulder rest at the top of the hill and feeling the weight lift from our shoulders. Sometimes the most significant changes happen not through sheer force of will, but by allowing space for the change to occur. This principle of non-action isn't confined to ancient Chinese philosophy. Around the world, cultures have long embraced the art of doing nothing. The Italians have a beautiful phrase, dolce far niente, which translates to the sweetness of doing nothing. It's the art of savoring life's simple moments without the urge to be productive. Picture this: an Italian piazza in the afternoon with friends leisurely sipping espresso, unhurried and fully present. There's a pleasure in idleness, a joy in simply existing without a to-do list. Then there's the Dutch concept of niksen, which means being idle or letting your mind wander without purpose. It's more than just sitting still. It's about giving your brain the freedom to daydream, to explore ideas without an agenda. In the Netherlands, Nixon is even practiced as a form of stress relief. People find a sunny spot in a park, lie down, and just watch the clouds drift by. And while it might seem counterproductive to a culture obsessed with efficiency, studies have shown that these moments of idle wandering can boost creativity and lead to clearer, more inspired thinking. So, what's the key takeaway here? It's that lasting change doesn't come from constant effort and striving. We live in a world that tells us to hustle, to push harder, to be relentless in the pursuit of our goals. But ancient wisdom, and even modern neuroscience, suggests that the opposite is often more effective. When we let go of the need to control every outcome and instead become present and self-aware, our minds and bodies find their natural balance. It's like unclenching a fist you didn't realize was tight, feeling the relief that comes when tension melts away. We've all experienced it, that inexplicable difference between feeling completely at ease among friends and suddenly transforming into a bundle of nerves when we're put on the spot in front of an audience. In one moment, our words flow effortlessly, our jokes land perfectly, and we speak from the heart. But as soon as we're standing under the bright lights or facing a room full of watchful eyes, we become tense, rehearsed, and disconnected from our authentic selves. Why does this happen? This shift isn't a mystery. It's a result of leaving our innate nature. When we're with friends, there's no fear of judgment, no desperate need to impress, only a natural rhythm of conversation that unfolds effortlessly. But as soon as we step on stage or into any high-pressure situation, fear creeps in. We worry about how we'll be perceived. We crave approval. We become self-conscious, and that desire to control everything ends up stifling the very qualities that make us shine. This is where the concept of non-doing comes in. By embracing non-action, we stay rooted in our innate nature, allowing us to remain genuine, present, and in flow, even under stress. But what does it mean to return to our innate nature? It means peeling away the layers of fear, societal expectations, and ego-driven ambition that pull us away from our true selves. Think about the way we live today. So much of what we do is driven by external pressure. We feel the need to perform, to prove our worth, to meet the standards that others have set for us. We get caught up in roles and personas, striving to be something we think the world wants. In the process, we forget how to simply be. And yet, paradoxically, it's in moments of stillness that the most profound breakthroughs occur. How often have you found that your best ideas come when you're not actively trying to solve a problem, like in the shower or on a quiet walk? This is the essence of strategic thinking. Understanding that true insight often comes when we create space for it. There's an old adage that thought drives out thought. The more we bombard our minds with endless information and tasks, the less room we have for creative ideas to emerge. Think of how many of history's greatest discoveries came not from frenzied effort, but from contemplation. Albert Einstein, for instance, would often daydream for hours, allowing his mind to wander freely. It was during these moments of stillness that some of his most groundbreaking ideas took shape. Non-doing, then, becomes essential for high-level problem solving and innovation. When we step back, we give our minds the room to process, to make connections, to think deeply. It's why visionaries like Bill Gates dedicate time to solitude and reflection. It's not wasted time. It's the foundation of their most extraordinary contributions. This idea of slowing down isn't just about thinking. It's about living intentionally. Enter the philosophy of slow living, where the goal is to savor life's moments instead of racing through them. Imagine waking up and actually tasting your morning coffee instead of gulping it down as you rush out the door. Or taking a walk in the park without the urge to check your phone every 5 minutes. Slow living invites us to be fully present, to appreciate the small joys that we often overlook. When we slow down, we find clarity and inner peace. We start to feel more connected to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. This leads us to an essential point. the need to reframe our understanding of value. We live in a society that glorifies tangible, measurable outcomes. We're praised for finishing projects, hitting targets, and crossing items off our to-do lists. But what about the subtle, often invisible activities that nurture our well-being and creativity, like rest, deep thinking, and quiet contemplation? These moments don't produce immediate results, yet they're invaluable. They lay the groundwork for our best work, our brightest ideas, and our most meaningful experiences. We need to challenge the idea that value only lies in what we can see and measure. Sometimes the most profound shifts occur beneath the surface, like seeds taking root in the dark soil before breaking through into the light. Rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Contemplation isn't a waste of time, it's the birthplace of wisdom. How do we invite more non-doing into our daily routines? So, we've talked about the philosophy and power behind non-doing, but let's be honest. Knowing the theory is one thing. Living in a world that's constantly demanding more from us, how do we invite more non-doing into our daily routines? Start with simple, everyday practices. When you're waiting in line at the grocery store, resist the urge to pull out your phone. Instead, let yourself be present. Notice the details around you, the colors of the produce, the background chatter, the way your feet feel on the floor, or consider your meals. Rather than scarfing down lunch at your desk, take a moment to savor each bite. Notice the flavors, the textures, the nourishment you're giving your body. These aren't grand gestures, but they're powerful ways to break the cycle of constant distraction and cultivate mindful stillness. Now, let's explore how non-action can transform specific moments in life. Picture this. You're in the middle of a heated argument with someone you care about. Your instinct might be to react immediately, to defend yourself or try to win the argument. But what if instead you practice non-action? Take a breath. Pause. Give the moment space to unfold without your intervention. Often, this simple act of stepping back diffuses tension and creates room for understanding. In parenting, non-action can be just as profound. When a child is frustrated or having a meltdown, the impulse to jump in and fix the situation is strong. But sometimes the best thing you can do is hold space, stay present, and let them navigate their emotions. You're not abandoning them. You're giving them the gift of your calm presence. Non-doing is also a powerful solution to stress. Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed, your mind racing from one worry to the next. Our instinct is to control every variable, to try and force outcomes to ease our anxiety. But this often backfires, leaving us even more wound up. When we step back, we allow our nervous system to reset. Our bodies and minds have an incredible capacity to find balance when we stop interfering. By creating pauses and moments of stillness, we not only reduce stress, but often find that the best solutions emerge naturally. In high-pressure situations, the benefits of non-doing become even more apparent. Athletes and artists know this well. Imagine a basketball player standing at the free throw line in the final seconds of a game. If they're tense and overthinking, their muscles stiffen, and the shot is likely to miss. But if they can relax, trust their muscle memory, and enter a state of flow, they're far more likely to score. It's the same for a musician performing on stage. The magic happens when they're not overanalyzing every note, but are fully present, letting the music flow through them. Performance under pressure is often about doing less and being more. Finally, let's talk about the art of letting go of worry. We've all experienced the mental tug of war that comes from trying to control every aspect of our lives. But here's the irony. The tighter we grip, the more things slip through our fingers. Releasing that urge to control everything fosters an inner calm that no amount of micromanagement can achieve. It's a lesson the natural world teaches us repeatedly. Think of a tree bending with the wind rather than resisting it. By letting go, it survives and thrives. In the same way, we can learn to bend, to flow, to trust that things will unfold as they're meant to. But how can we achieve more with less effort? Let's explore some powerful practices that make this principle of non-doing not just an idea, but a way of life. practical ways to achieve more with less effort. By now, you might be wondering, how can I really make non-doing work for me? In a world that never stops, how do we embrace this paradox of achieving more by doing less? The good news is that there are tangible, accessible practices that can help you implement non-doing and transform your daily life. Let's start with something that may sound radical, but is deeply healing: dialogue with discomfort. When we experience physical pain or emotional distress, our first instinct is usually to resist, suppress, or fix it. But what if instead we asked our discomfort a simple question? How do you want me to be with you? This practice, often used in mindfulness and somatic therapies, invites us to approach our pain with curiosity and non-judgment. Imagine you're dealing with anxiety about an upcoming project. Instead of trying to force the anxiety away, take a moment to ask it what it needs. You may be surprised by the answer. Sometimes your emotions just want to be acknowledged and held with compassion. This gentle approach can soften even the most persistent discomfort and create space for genuine healing. Next, let's consider the power of a digital Sabbath. Our devices have become extensions of ourselves, and while they keep us connected, they also exhaust our mental resources. To truly reset, try dedicating one day a week to a full digital detox. Turn off your phone, close your laptop, and let the world go on without you for 24 hours. Use this time to engage with the physical world, take a walk, read a book, or just sit and watch the sky. It's in these moments of digital silence that your mind can wander freely, process ideas, and come up with creative insights. Think of it as giving your brain a mini vacation, a chance to breathe deeply and return refreshed. Speaking of simplicity, remember that non-doing doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming. Practical accessibility is key. Non-doing can be as simple as taking an extra 5 minutes to savor your morning coffee instead of rushing through it. Sit quietly, feel the warmth of the mug in your hands, and taste each sip. Or find a moment to sit in nature without any agenda, just soaking in the sounds of the wind, the rustling leaves, and the life around you. These small acts are powerful reminders to slow down and be present. And then there's the breathing analogy, one of the most beautiful metaphors for non-doing. Just as our breath flows effortlessly when left alone, so do many aspects of life. Try this. Take a moment to notice your breath. When you don't interfere, your body knows exactly what to do. It inhales and exhales in perfect rhythm, sustaining you without conscious effort. But when you try to control your breath, forcing it to be deeper or faster, it becomes strained and unnatural. Non-doing is about honoring that natural flow, trusting that life, like breath, often works best when we stop trying to force it. Let's wrap up with why this simple yet profound practice matters so much. As we bring this journey to a close, take a moment to reflect. How much of your day is spent in needless busyness, in the endless pursuit of productivity that leaves you feeling empty? How often do you catch yourself chasing goals that seem to move further away the harder you try? What if the missing piece isn't about doing more, but letting go? The greatest impact often comes from stillness. History's most remarkable breakthroughs have often arrived not in moments of intense effort, but in pauses, when the mind is free to wander and connect the dots. Remember that doing nothing isn't about neglecting your responsibilities. It's about recognizing that sometimes stepping back allows the most elegant solutions to emerge. It's about trusting that there's wisdom in stillness, a wisdom that speaks louder than all the noise. So, here's your inspirational challenge. What could you discover if you stopped doing and allowed life to unfold naturally? If you gave yourself the gift of stillness, how would it change the way you think, feel, and live? These aren't just abstract ideas. They're invitations to transform your life in ways you may never have imagined. I encourage you to experiment with non-doing. Try one of the practices we've explored, whether it's a digital Sabbath, savoring a quiet moment, or asking your discomfort how it wants to be treated. And if you do, share your experience. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the art of non-doing. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most profound thing you can do is nothing at all.